You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network. Now the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Dean Johnson.
On the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, and streaming live on Ustream. This is AFTERBUZZ TV for Boardwalk Empire. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest Boardwalk Empire news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, picking up where the show leaves off and the buzz continues, it's AFTERBUZZ TV for Boardwalk Empire.
Hey everybody, good evening. It's Boardwalk Empire Season 2, Episode 6, The Age of Reason. I'm Tamara Berg here with Bethany Graber and Kevin Undergaro, and it is the day before Halloween, so we're having a bit of a costume dress up. Well,
I'm saving my costume for tomorrow.
Kevin's saving his costume for tomorrow, and this would be all my costume, and it's probably not going to stay on long because I don't know if I can handle this mask very long.
It's very Venetian.
I think I got it for a
It also
Venetian
feels very
party I was going
Boardwalk.
to, but I thought it was kind of, you
It
know,
is very
the
Boardwalk.
feathers and sort of the flapper deal. But you have this beautiful dress on. You look fabulous.
It's my period piece.
And you had your hat on earlier that looked adorable too, which just doesn't work at all with the headphones.
Surprise,
So yeah.
surprise.
So we're kind
And
of
Jesse, Phil was busy this weekend playing around in the studio like he likes to do, and I can't hear myself at all, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna go. You guys keep talking.
okay. Well, we will. So lots to talk about here on Boardwalk Empire, and if I could see my notes through my mask, I will talk about them. So this episode is called Age of Reason, although I don't know where they get their names for the episodes because they never seem to make sense to me. I would absolutely think that this one would be more one of the topics that we were going to get to.
I felt like last week's was like right on the nose.
Yeah.
Like last week it was Gershwin and
and
Shanker
gin bottoms or what
jumping,
I can't remember.
but it was about politicians speaking insincerely, which that never happens.
No.
I'm going in and out too now. This is crazy. When I say in and out, I just mean I can't hear anything. So I'm gonna take my headphones off.
Oh well. She's going naked.
Now,
I am.
Jess, can you hear us?
You guys sound perfect.
Okay, thank you,
yeah.
DJ Jesse Janity.
Okay.
In control of things. So
That's okay. This means I can wear my hat now.
there it is. There it is.
Put your hat on.
All right.
So this episode was directed by Jeremy Podeswa, which what an interesting last name he has. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Podeswa.
Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt
no,
you.
what were you
I
gonna
find
say?
it fascinating that it's summer in Atlantic City right now.
Yes.
And this was a dark gray episode and everything was happening indoors.
Yes.
This time. There was no
There was only like
no
2 scenes
life.
outdoors. Yeah, and it was dark and at night when they were.
I don't know.
Well, some pretty dark topics too. One of the ones that I wanted to talk about that came out right in the very beginning, and I thought was sort of a theme throughout the whole show, and that was confession, because we talked about Teddy preparing for his first communion, and
Which, by the way,
had
he
to
said
confess
first
before.
confession.
Oh,
Can
right.
you clarify that for me? Was
I
it
can't.
back
You have
then?
to. I'm not Catholic.
I know, but like back then, was it not first communion? Was it first confession?
I don't. I
or
wonder
was that
if
a
that
slip
might
of
be.
the tongue, like from Nucky? Normally it would be first communion.
Well, I
I
thought.
mean, he had the communion suit
Especially
on,
that
which
age.
it seemed like, but maybe back then it wasn't.
But I thought what was happening was he had to have his first confession before he could take his first communion. So it was one step that went.
You know, the way they tortured. I mean, the way they trained us was was at 7 you got your first communion, and then
right.
like in your teen years was confession. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, because
So
it's
it was
the Catholic
either-
Church and all the rules are interchangeable to suit the times.
Yes, exactly.
So back then, maybe it was. What I found amazing was this was the Catholic Church, you guys. Not at its most powerful. I think it really peaked in the 50s, to be honest.
Really, yeah.
But just that, just the shame basing and and the way it's just like, you will burn in hell. He's telling a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, oh, he's going to burn in hell. And what I loved was the fact that, and I'd like to think that there were characters like Nucky who saw it all as a joke.
Right.
And back then, at least in my studies of history, it seems like the mobsters weren't like this. That it was weird. They would kill, but then they were always at church, sending money to church. They had this like,
because that was how they balanced the books, so to speak.
Right. And what I like about Nucky is he's so cool that he knows well before even many today that this is really just a man-made joke, and you can't tell this guy your business.
It's all about the power.
And it's all about the power and yada yada yada. And John Comerford, was the one who clued me in that the origin of confession, allegedly.
Ooh.
And it was a way for people in the village it was a way for the priest or the people leading the village to get the inside dirt on what was going on. That's all it was. That's all it was. It was really the angle. Yeah, and of course, yeah, because if you look in the Bible and like if you study the Bible and you study Jesus, it's just more of a historical perspective.
Right.
There was no confession.
Oh man, I'm so bummed out.
You just had to have sorrow in your heart. That's all it was. You had to be sorry for your sins. You didn't have to have a official confession.
That's terrible.
Yeah, well, and so that's why it's interesting that Nucky's like, don't tell him anything.
Right. Because he knows it's not
it's
safe.
Great, and yet, and you
so to speak.
You see, his Mrs. Schroeder is also interesting because she wants to buy into it because she wants to be into faith, and she wants to
she was obviously raised Catholic and came from Ireland, a very traditional life.
But she's not stupid either.
Right.
She's like, this is part of it. We need to really have our, we really want him to grow up to be a good boy, and you see that, but at the same time, she's not gonna give up the goods, and she says to Nucky, if you're guilty about something, then you better go talk to him yourself. But clearly, she has no guilt about the husband. The first husband meeting his demise, or the ex-husband.
Yeah.
But why are you smiling, Bethany? You don't believe that?
It's just no. I do believe it. I do believe that doesn't bother her anymore, because I think Mrs. Schroeder has kind of grown in that way into this season. But she like walks a very fine line morally and ethically a lot of the times, and it's kind of like whatever she's feeling that day, it's very important to her, and she's not I wouldn't say she's a very solid character to me in that way. Like, whereas I feel like
her moral character,
Jimmy, yes, I feel like Jimmy's morals and his ethics are very clear. They're absolutely clear. Mr. Schroeder, not so much. It's
fluid.
And I find that like this whole theme of purification and confessing and living an
coming
honest,
clean,
and living an honest life. Like what characters in this are living an honest life, and which of our characters aren't? And
well, okay, so so let's talk about so the the confession goes through with the kid, and then a little bit later we see Van Alden at the hospital. I think he's going in to see Lucy have her baby, and he sees Clarkson, his underling, who's burned over all of his body. Clarkson says to I see you. I know it's you. I know it's you, or I know what you did.
Something like that, yeah.
And it just sends Van Alden into this terrible crisis. He runs to the phone, calls Rose.
The gig's up,
and says, I've done some terrible thing. Basically confesses to her on the phone, right? And he says, he talks about how this wife makes me do things. There are things about me and this job. Everything I've done is because I love you, but I have sinned. And he's got, talk about some weird religious and moral challenges within his own.
I loved how he went at his superior. He attacked because you can see God's his boss. That's it.
Yep.
So it's crazy when the whatever the guy blasphemed, his boss in his eyes had blasphemed, and he went right at him.
Yeah.
And yet he's not living an honest life by any stretch of the imagination. Even though he gets on the phone and kind of confesses,
right?
He really doesn't,
right?
He not at all.
It's apparent when the nurse says he doesn't have much longer to live, and he's out the door. He was like, he didn't even turn around.
Weird, he don't really care.
Yeah.
What about Lucy asking for those lemons?
first she asked for onions, and then it was lemons. And I mean, obviously the symbolism.
The lemons are a symbol of purification. And so, and I also think it's interesting. She's asking for purification, but I find it funny that he brings them to her because they're like the least nutritional food that you could possibly and like the least nurturing thing that you could possibly bring someone. Like, here you go.
Well, he doesn't know any better, and he's just doing, you know.
Yeah. But she's asking for a bit of purification as well in this episode. Yeah. So they tie it in nicely.
It'll be interesting to see if she's gonna let go of this baby. She seemed like she was pretty happy with that baby and proud of herself. I did it on my own, like you know, because other than maybe being in Broadway and having sex, like she really probably doesn't feel like she's very good at anything.
What sort of life does she have? Yeah.
And so the fact that she was able to do this on her own, have the baby, it might be empowering. And of course, you know, the bond between a mother and a child.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see if she lets it go.
I want to talk about that in predictions because I have a prediction about that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm very surprised that she did it on her own. I'm very surprised. I wasn't expecting her to go that deep within and be able to follow through.
Have that kind of.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's because of it, some of like, we've heard so much of her like off-screen antics that that adds to
our impression of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might be a little of it. But what they've done with her characters, they've really given her so much.
Yes, indeed. I agree. Then we also had at one point the butcher talking to speaking to Jimmy, or Jimmy speaking to the butcher and saying that Jimmy saw Herman, one of the butcher's underlings, you know, on the boardwalk with Waxy, with Nucky. Fast forward a little bit later, and the butcher is in the slaughterhouse upside down with the butcher bringing Jimmy in, going, "I think you need to. I think you have something that you want to say to each other, right?" Oh, nice.
Very important phone call, I'm sure.
Good job.
I think it's John telling us about confession.
It's Nucky Thompson.
Yeah, it's Nucky. So again, the confession theme with Herman upside down, Jimmy asking him questions. You know, what did you say? What do you know? And it was sort of a, you know.
So it was confession, but also what you guys had mentioned, and this, well, I was just enjoying the episode as I always do, and so a lot of the stuff flew over my head, but the book Lion's Den.
Yes.
So talk about that, because I know that plays into. Okay, now what happened in there, Jesse? Anything?
Oh, well, it's Daniel in the Lion's Den. It's
no,
from the
I was going to say, Jesse, just do anything, because now I can hear out of my headphones.
Oh, okay.
It is from the Bible, Daniel in the Lion's Den.
Yeah.
And when one of Nucky's, do I want to say servant? Is that the not? Or I assume it's one of the men that work at the Ritz-Carlton is like shining his shoes.
Yes.
He says that's one of my son's favorite passages.
Parables.
From there. But I think this is a fun little game to play, because we can go through just about any scene in here, and one character, they're on their territory, and they are the lion, and the other character is the meat.
Prey.
Basically. Right. So like any scene, go.
And Tim, was there anything on that book that you looked up?
Well, it's not. I mean, the book. I didn't get that it was I didn't understand that it was a real book. I thought it was a book of the parable of Daniel and Lion's Den from the Bible. Oh. So it's, if I remember correct, God, we're really just pulling my Bible school studies, but basically Daniel gets tossed into the lion's den and comes out unscathed because he's got faith, is pretty much what I remember. And I'm really sorry if I'm wrong.
No, that's fine. And that makes perfect sense, because that's what Nucky and Mrs. Schroeder are talking about.
Right.
Is about faith and whatnot.
Exactly. So now you want to talk about like any one of the ones.
I mean, like any of them. I mean, we open up and we're with the priest and Mrs. Schroeder's young boy, and the priest is like a hungry lion.
Yes.
Like just pounding for questions from this child.
Yes.
And it's again, I think our director Jeremy in the summer has chosen these like very dark, den-like settings. I mean, we're constantly indoors, so that's just one.
And this, you guys, seems darker than in cinematography than the last few episodes.
Well, I absolutely felt so, because there are times when I couldn't even see, because I'm writing notes. You know, we had all the lights off tonight when we were watching, and I used my phone as my flashlight so I can write notes. And there were times when a couple of times Van Alden walked in and I couldn't tell who he was.
You know, let me say this. On the technical end, why I know the show's always been dark.
It has.
Because we watch it in a screening room.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty pimp projector down there.
Yep.
And but it's a very big screen. I mean, it's a really big theater that we have. And so we had complaints the first few episodes of last season. We were having complaints about the projector, and I don't want to, and people are like, I don't want to watch in there. You know, it's too big of a screen. This projector can't project on it, and I was buying into it for a while. This was Paul Ashton was complaining, and then Maria Menounos was too, and they wanted to watch this somewhere else, and I'm like, geez. I went and I checked with the dealer again about, like, no, absolutely. That's why you bought the expensive one that can project on a big screen. It's because the show just is a dark show.
Is a dark show.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm sure it is getting darker. And there's a reason we didn't see daylight on the boardwalk. We only saw nighttime.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's always been dark. But it does seem this season too, it seems even darker.
It's and they're very specific about when they use windows and when they use light. I feel like every time not every time they use a window, but do you remember last season a lot of the open windows with Mr. Schroeder, and then this episode Van Alden runs out of the hospital room when his agent says, "I see you, I know what you did," and he looks towards the light, and it's one of the very few times that things get that bright for us, and so it's just. It fascinates me how simple a lot of the things that they're doing and how well they read.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You know,
it's what do you guys are you seeing a difference between this director and Tim Van Patten?
Yes, I would say I feel like Tim Van Patten has a little bit more movement. I honestly do.
Okay.
I felt like a lot of this was very stationary.
And is that a good thing or bad thing?
It's just, you know, do you like your left hand better than your right?
It's a choice. Okay.
Yeah, it's typically a choice that they're making. Another instance of the Lion's Den, I think this was my favorite one because it was the most lion-like.
Right.
Was when the butcher took Jimmy down the stairs, quite literally into his lair.
Into his lair.
Yes, exactly.
And then there are all these like cows and meat just hanging there. And we look over and there is Herman
upside down.
And he's just upside down. At first I thought he was dead and that was his tongue sticking out in some weird deformed way, but I guess I was wrong.
By the way, how graphic is this show, you guys?
Well, we don't watch it.
I can't.
The two, you should have seen this last week. She left the room when one particularly gruesome.
I get like that.
You know,
Yeah,
last week
and I can't watch it either.
I'm so sorry I couldn't be here because I really enjoyed last week's episode with Richard. I mean,
Yes.
He's just fantastic. And I had a question for you guys.
Yes.
Do you think that when the two guys he saw out in the woods,
Yes.
when they said the woods are for living,
Yes.
do you think they knew he was going to kill himself?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
I do feel that. What do you think?
I wasn't sure if they thought so. I was hoping that was what it was, but I was also leery that they know like bootleggers could use the woods to kind of run
For
moonshine
killing people?
and killing people and stuff, and like that's not what this is for. And of course, the slight contradiction because they're out there hunting animals themselves.
Right.
So I wasn't sure, and maybe it was just a double entendre. I don't know.
It could be
both. But
It
anyway,
could
I don't
be-
want to take us backwards.
Absolutely. No.
Moving forward.
It was a really good episode, and what I find interesting about both of these episodes is that they're bringing in the idea of faith and spirituality. And last week was with the dog.
Yes.
And with him finding him at that moment when he was about to kill himself and wandering off into the woods and the whole chase scene, and then this with the idea of purity and what it means to live an honest life. Because aside from the Catholic Church, I mean, I do like and what the ethical standards and moral standards are in this TV show. I mean, I feel like our characters do, with the exception of the politicians, I feel like most of them are trying to live an honest life. Would you say that?
Well, I would say that I don't know so much an honest life, but they're constantly trying to reconcile things. Exactly.
Yes.
You know, they're trying.
And so, because Nucky, I think Nucky is a great example of that. Someone who, you know, he's always buying people, he's always, you know, giving favors, but he's always balancing it by taking things back. And so, you know, and he does have people killed, and he does commit crimes, and he does do, you know, bad things, but he always tries to make it right in some way. And so it's kind of about equilibrium and balance for them.
I have a question for both of you. Why does he take that $10 that he puts in the book and pulls it out and puts in a 20? Why do you think he does that?
I think what we touched on earlier about traditional mobsters, I think just buying his
affection.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And maybe even more. Maybe.
Yeah,
but, you know.
I mean, maybe deeply on some level he feels like he's not enough. Is that possible?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Or you know what? Maybe it's to guys. Maybe it's to balance off the pre-shaming him. And him to go, you know what? You don't listen to them. You're okay.
Don't listen
You're
to him.
okay, kid.
Exactly.
I mean, I love how Nucky again. I want to go backwards. I love how Nucky called the priest Ed. And again, you guys,
he did? I didn't
this
even
was
hear
such
that.
this is like such
genius.
no-nos. Like today, it's different. But from the 50s behind, it's like these priests. This is, I mean, by the way, it's why the Catholic Church went into the toilet. They were rock stars.
Right.
The priests were rock stars. They could do
no wrong.
No wrong. You know,
except that they were.
You tons. You know, parents wouldn't even believe the children. They'd be like, "Hush! How could you say that about Father such and such?"
Right.
But anyway, it's just interesting. Yeah, he's like, all right, Ed.
No, but it's such a beautiful way of saying, I know you, I see you, I grew up with you, I know who you, I know I know who you really are.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't try to put this on.
He basically calls him a salesman.
Yeah.
Right. He's like he's going to sell you new boots.
New boots. Right. Exactly. That was such a great line. Every cobbler, every shoe salesman thinks you need a new pair of boots.
Yeah.
I always feel like I need a new pair of shoes.
You may very well. You may very well.
Just saying.
Can we, you guys?
Yeah.
The Commodore and that whole thing, and I'm sure we're gonna really touch even deeper on it. But do you think the Commodore was trying to tell everyone in the room that the girl, his mistress, was abusing him? Because it's like, geez, he looks like he was trying to.
But I think he was trying to exert his power in some way. But I don't think he was.
You don't think
really...
he was trying to say, "Help me, I'm this lady's."
And I not yet. I'm
because
curious.
she said, but Jimmy did say, and he's very sharp. It seems like he was.
Maybe I didn't pick up on that, but that's totally possible.
Was it Jimmy or Carmine Soprano, the actor from The Sopranos?
Yeah.
They brought back to play this kind of new. Seems like the new old power force that's gonna counsel Jimmy.
Right.
One of them had said, "Geez, it looked like the Commodore was." I think it was Jimmy. Looks like he was directing that at you, to the mother. And she was like, okay, let's just get him out of here. So that's why I think he was trying to say, please help, like, get me out, help me.
Well, see, I took that the other way, that the guy they were speaking to said something about somebody being a pistol or a strong something.
They were, and then he responded. The Commodore responded. It seemed like he was trying to get involved in the business end of it. Okay. But Jimmy, who we know is razor sharp, goes. It seemed like he was saying something about you.
Right, but I didn't think he was referring to the Commodore. I thought he was referring to the other guy in the room. Talking about.
No, I think it was the Commodore, because in the Commodore, that's when the Commodore she was like, okay, she got like a little
now I want to watch it
unnerved,
again.
and she had to like wheel him out really quickly.
See it.
And by the way, I don't think is the mask too heavy.
It's
I understand.
There's hair in my face.
We'll keep talking. We'll keep going. But it seemed to me anyway. It's gonna be interesting how that unfolds. Like I kind of hope they don't kill off the Commodore, because I love Dabney Coleman as an actor. Like I hope
really wonderful.
But it's like we're in the 20s. I don't see much rehab.
No, right, exactly. I don't either.
He's going to be able to speak again.
No, I don't think so.
No, and it was too bad, because he had just dyed all of his hair and really had
like
found
coming back
his youth and got his voice and they took it away. I wonder what that's like. Not to get too sidetracked, but as an actor, to be like, you get your pages and you're like, oh wow, this episode's killing. I'm like coming back into power, and you're like, you see this great arc, and then all of a sudden you're like,
oh my God, and I'm confined
Crap,
to a
I have a
wheelchair from
stroke.
here on
I
out.
can't speak anymore. And yeah, no,
I
I'm
want to
sure.
know how he feels.
I'm sure he's not happy.
Yeah, probably not. Probably
It was
not.
interesting too. And we were trying to figure out the name of the new guy in the like secret circle of the Commodore's world, but it is the actor who played
All I can think is Carmine.
right.
Yeah,
the soprano.
it's just.
But
Like,
it's great
at
to
the
see
front.
his range, to see
Yeah.
him now play this gentleman.
Yes.
That's from another era. From even his pork chop.
I know. That's
Sideburns are
Sideburns,
very
right.
like 1880s. You could see that
Yeah.
probably was his peak, and it's never gone by. But he had a great line like, "Don't." What did he say? You don't have to respond to every insult.
Yes.
Yes.
And I love how later on, Jimmy takes that
Kicks the line back,
and kicks it back, and
and it makes you
he-
believe that he'll be greater than the butcher.
Yes,
at some point.
absolutely. But I love how he raises the stakes with it instead. Because what did Carmine say? Well, his name's not really Carmine.
know,
You
we have
had
to know-
you had
yeah.
just said it. I have to find out what his actual name is. But he raises the stakes because he says you don't have to kill everyone. And I'm like,
Right.
well, that's a little different than
Right. Right.
It's a little dangerous. Oh God.
Now, with the idea of talking about going into the lion's den, I want you to comment on, if you would, Margaret and Mr. Slater and the Katie thing and the
boy.
Nucky thing and
well,
all of
like
that.
each lion in this episode or chosen lion, the person with the given status is kind of like really wielding their power this episode, and Mrs. Schroeder does that, and she doesn't. She doesn't have to. I mean, they're not doing anything in front of the children,
Right.
By any stretch of the imagination.
Again, like Catholic woman, and back then, you really don't want two people banging in your house,
Especially
with kids in the house.
when it's not it's
it's
not
just-
as if Katie has any ownership of the home. It's not like she's her daughter.
Right, she's a servant. It's really improper for
It
the
really
children. It's
is, yeah.
improper as an employee.
Right.
And then adding to it, she
Yeah.
definitely likes this guy.
Well,
Slater.
yeah, which
So
we
you
didn't
think-
really get very clearly until the end.
Yeah.
And by the way, Slater is like, he's not so much on the up and up if he's doing that, knowing it's Nucky's girl. Like, so he's it's making it hard for us to be able to root for him.
I don't know. For some reason, I am rooting for
you
him.
always
I'm
fall
so
for them.
terrible.
I
do.
root for him
Like in
because
the
he
bad
defends
boy,
Nucky. I like that, but he's making the moves on Nucky's girl, so I don't know.
I just this is where I get cranky with Mrs. Schroeder because
Yes.
she wants her cake and she wants to eat it too.
Yes.
She wants the young, handsome man.
Right.
But she also wants to be provided for by the old man.
Right.
And it's kind of like, whoa.
Well, she's not
whoa.
acting on that want. I mean, everyone has feelings,
She's not acting on it, but I don't.
and she's guilty about it.
She's guilty about
That's
it.
why she confessed to the priest.
Yeah. Okay.
And remember,
you're
like
right.
Mrs. Schroeder was gangster and took that. If she didn't get that book out of there for Nucky, Mrs. Schroeder, I think you're going a little harder, Mrs. Schroeder.
I am harder.
Mrs. Schroeder's a
on her.
great wife.
You think?
Oh, hell yeah.
She's doing a good job.
Oh, she's a great gangster wife.
You think?
Fantastic.
Okay.
Can we talk a little bit about Lucy and Van Alden?
Oh my God.
So
They're
Lucy,
so
as we said,
twisted.
she made it through the birth all by herself, and then I saw the wife showing up. When I saw the lemons in the bowl, I instantly knew what that was. Did anybody else know that?
No, I
Yeah.
didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh.
I see the lemons in the bowl, and I turned to John, who was sitting near me, and I said, "It's the wife." And he goes, "Ooh." So yeah, I knew immediately she was there, and because that's what I would have
Yeah,
done
in
if
the
I had
bowl.
been Rose,
Yeah.
sitting at home, going, "My husband's
And
in
by the
great
way,
distress."
no, but you, Tammy, who's so domesticated, would have totally done the beautiful bowl of lemons. Would have totally cleaned
up the mess.
And made the place
Sprayed
look nice.
a little air freshener,
And it
made
was
it
just
nice, and
like-
curled Lucy's hair for
Yeah.
her.
And
I would have.
did her job, and then was like, okay, I'm out.
But then beat the crap out of Van Alden.
Yeah,
That's what I would have done.
And I'll tell you I guess it's more of a predictions thing, but it feels like Van Alden's gonna have so much less to lose now that
Yes.
now it's like he's gonna be unhinged
Yes.
in his pursuit
Yes.
of Nucky.
Yes.
This is true.
I
Yeah, because
totally
this has been holding
agree.
him back for some
Yes.
time now.
Yeah.
And now he doesn't have anything to lose.
No.
Wow. I love that she bit him.
That was, again,
Nice little lion action
Yes.
there. I love that she was like, no, this is, you are not going to like try to fix this or control this.
You weren't doing that.
Guys,
for
it's
me.
Just, for this show and Breaking Bad, you know, there's so much thought put into the writing, and then of course then the direction. So he, you know, and all of it tying together. It's amazing, and I think hopefully as we continue to get bigger at AfterBuzz, we'll like we did with Breaking Bad, we'll start talking to some of the showrunners and the actors, because I'd love to see what goes. I mean, the amount
to
of
know
work
some of the secrets
that goes into this.
Yeah,
like, it's just, you know, for all of these characters, and the fact that they all, none of them take us out. I don't feel, you know, I was saying, and Dexter's, I like Dexter, but I don't love it because they have a lot of extra characters on that show that don't necessarily relate to what's going on with Dexter. And it's like, ugh, I'm like, I roll my eyes, I get bored, or if I have a TV, I want to fast forward through it. But like this or Breaking Bad, it's like, but this, because there's so many characters, but I'm fine with all of them.
Well, what I love about it is, and I watch you do this all the time, when something's happening on the screen, and if we don't exactly know what it is, it's not one of those things that you just throw away and go, oh, it's an extraneous character, a superfluous character. You know that it's in there for a reason, and then you have to kind of sit and think and try and figure out what it is, because this is the kind of show where that is the case.
Right.
You know? So, I love that about this show. You wanted to talk a little bit about Jimmy, because we've got Jimmy, you know, starting with the Commodore and that whole conversation. Then we have the situation with the butcher, and then in the end, the ambush. So
and the ambush, and with Rothstein making the deal with, no, it wasn't Rothstein.
It
I'm
was,
sorry, it was
Lucky,
Luciano, and Meyer Lansky.
Right. Exactly.
And again, I love it because they're, you know, two real historical figures. And as we talk about, you know, this is like, we know these guys more than what they did in Cuba, like, you know, but to see them as babies like this, it's amazing. And you know they're going to come out of it, like, you knew they weren't going to die, because that would step away from history.
Exactly.
So so it's interesting to see this deal struck, and like for this episode, the pendulum has again swung away from Nucky.
Yes.
And toward Jimmy's favor.
Why do you think Jimmy doesn't shoot them?
Because he said, why, you know, it was, they had the guns on each other, and Lansky, who was known to be a genius, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, Jewish guys smarter, you know, just sorry, than the Catholics. But anyway, he immediately had the light bulb and was smart enough to say, okay, you're going to kill us for a couple of truckfuls
cases
of booze. We can make some real money.
Right.
Like, let's get together. And they're like, you know what? And it was interesting. The butcher just wanted to kill him because he's really old school gangster.
Yes.
He is.
But Jimmy's like, has learned from his new mentor, you know, don't take every insult, don't respond to every insult. And you know what? Let's hear these guys out. We can actually, let's remember what this is about. It's about making money and running Nucky out. Why should we? If these guys want to work with us, let's do it. And we hate Rothstein too, because they're tired of being under Rothstein's thumb.
Indeed. And I think it's always a balance again between, you know, how much can I get and how much do I have to give up, or how much money can I make versus how much safety and security am I giving up? Because, you know, he would kill those guys if he thought he couldn't make an alliance with them.
You know, and remember, like, it's the old mob rule, and that's why there's not much of a mob left, because they've put everyone away, and the third and fourth stringers don't understand this. It's just about making money.
Yeah.
So it's
all this talk of loyalty and all that kind of stuff. It only goes so far.
And vengefulness, and that's it. It's at the end of the day, they remember it's about making money, and they know that this lifestyle does lead to maybe taking a bullet. Yep. So, but you know, this is the life we chose.
And again, it's the risk versus the potential gain.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I love that scene, and it's interesting because I love Rothstein, but I don't know how much longer Rothstein will last. Only because in history, I think in 1921 or 22 he gets killed.
He gets killed.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's coming up.
So yeah, I don't know how much longer it's going to be, but I know it's those guys are going to be fine. I also think our good friend Chris McDonald is doing an amazing job as the Attorney General in the Warren Harding White House.
Yes. Daugherty, I believe is his character name.
Daugherty. And again, it speaks to your point, Bethany, about the politicians in this. They're not interested in decency at all.
They're I mean, completely 100% shameless. Where at least I feel like these, and you know, they've helped paint the picture this way, but I feel like our gangsters do have like some boundaries and, and a conscience.
Some sort of moral compass.
Yes, a majority of the time. The politicians, not so much.
No, it really just swings to whoever's in there in front of them and whoever has the best offer at the moment.
But even the ones I knew, you guys, I have to tell you.
Politicians or gangsters?
Gangsters. Politicians were always lame.
Yeah.
But the gangsters were like, I've seen neighbors go to them and cry about, oh, my daughter's dating this guy, and they're like, really? All right, let me talk to them. Like, it's crazy, like that they really have this like sense of justice. It's just strange, you know.
And why do you think that is? Is it just because?
I think it's, well, first of all, they number one, they enjoy the power, but number two, it's I think they so enjoy doing the good deeds because they're doing so much bad.
And it makes them feel human on some level.
Yeah. And I think and I think they're brainwashed and think they're going to hell. So that's, you know.
But I also think they're also like in each individual ghetto there has to be a sense of law and order, and somebody has to keep that,
right?
And somebody has to also take care of their people,
right?
And because
initially that's really what it was. They were like, they were the mayors or whatever, symbolically. But even the ones I knew in recent times. Some of it was it's a little bit all of the above, but I always felt it was like it was just their way of evening the score in their brains for all the bad things.
Well, and there are different ways to exert one's power over people. One of them is to know their secrets. One of them is to keep them in fear. One of them is to have some sort of, you know, personal loyalty. So if I help you out with your daughter's situation, you know, you're not afraid of me, but I've done you a favor, and so that, you know, creates a bond.
Yeah,
you're
loading up your favor bank, so to speak.
Exactly, on all levels.
But we see, you know, poor Nucky now. I mean, this was a tough episode for him. You know.
Yeah, he got some really bad news.
The wife's sitting on like somebody else. His case now is up and once again back on the floor. Oh, and I love Charlie Forbes. How great is that?
That's amazing.
The Forbes family, you know, and that's awesome. Yes. I love you guys. I love this.
The Forbes family.
I love the tie backs to the real figures, and I for one think that every time that the writers use these little ways to make yesterday and today. Not blend, but make us be able to relate.
Connected, yeah.
And, you know, we're entering into the information age. I always use that one that Rothstein said. Yes. But this episode was the wireless radio.
Yes.
When it was advertised in the wireless radios, all I could think of was Verizon Wireless, or like I felt like that was a tie back.
It was so funny because Jimmy's wife then goes, well, it would be nice not to have like a huge collection of records and like things taking up space,
right? And so
isn't that like your?
It's totally your CDs and now
I'm
having
always
an
trying
iPod.
to get rid of our CDs because I'm like we have it in our iPod.
Yeah, why bother? So it's just
I
love.
Yeah.
Seeing it, and you know, and when I study history and biographies, it's just, and sometimes you even see older movies, you see how little we've changed as people. You know, like we don't really evolve too far. Like, great line in Space Seed for a few Star Trek fans, with the original Khan, where he said how little, but yes, there've been technological advancements. Ricardo Montalbán, Khan says, he goes, but how little man has changed, you know, over time. But you know, when you see what went on then and today, I don't know. I love it. I love it. I love the tiebacks.
I'm curious which character y'all think has the most faith out of everyone.
Faith
and faith in terms of like, not in I don't know, maybe just in whatever you mean by faith, I guess, you know. Faith in their story working out. I don't know.
I would say in a really weird, twisted way, which could be say anybody's name next, but I would say Van Alden. Okay. Because he tries so hard to be a good human. He bows to his failings again and again. and keeps trying to come back.
Yeah, I would say him.
So I think he would be
because it feels like everyone else has had the faith beaten out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Richard.
Yep.
Through the war, through what happened to his face.
Yeah.
Jimmy, all the people he killed in World War I. Nucky, just God knows what he's seen, the horrible side of men. Whatever's gone on with Margaret's past, clearly
can't wait
the
to figure out
Commodore took it away from Ginny.
Yes.
You know, so a lot of them have had it destroyed. Again, why it's great writing.
Yeah.
They might be struggling to be decent, but
what do you think, Bethany?
For me, it's Jimmy.
Because
not in the sense of like not because he's like reading the Bible every day, but in the sense that like all of the actions and everything that he seems to do, everyone that he seems to kill, and the choices that he makes, he seems to be very. He doesn't look back on them. He's the first character I feel like out of everyone that is like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have done that.
And that's what I'm wondering. Is that a faith thing or a decency thing?
I don't. Maybe both.
Yeah, maybe it is both.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Yeah, you know what? If the straight question of who's got the most faith, it would be Van Alden. But like you said, it's twisted faith.
Yes.
So if we take away take the psychotic aspect, if we say the most non-psychotic version of faith, I think you're right. I think it's Jimmy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jimmy, it's interesting that this was the first time he called to the mom kissing him on the lips. And by the way, she 3 times. Mm-hmm. And Carmen Soprano, I'm so sorry we don't have his name, gave the look, and he said, "Oh no, I forget
it's a thing she does, or something." He dismisses it basically.
Yeah, it's a thing she does.
I love how he puts it in her. I mean, it is on her to a point, but he accepts it. He's never said, "Mom, that's weird. Don't do it."
So, do you think that shows sort of an evolvement of Jimmy's?
No, I just think it's good that people are starting to call to it. They're not keeping it so subtle. So eventually, it's going to come to a head. And remember, we have to remember, Lucky banged the mother.
Yeah.
Lucky, so when they both had the guns on each other, it's the single shot. They could have had Meyer Lansky. They could. It was a single shot of Jimmy, single shot of Lucky, guns at each other because he's got this weird relationship with the mother that seems very sexual, and obviously Lucky had one with her. They're both 2 young men. I mean, just weird.
Yeah, no, it is weird, but I also think it's a power thing because it's saying like, no, I've got her under control. Don't worry. Yeah. Like I'm the boss here. This is my lair. Don't worry.
That's sort of what I'm referring to as an evolvement of Jimmy's. That he's not so much the little boy anymore, and he's not going to allow her to be manipulating him as much. That was sort of how I read that.
Right.
When they were in the woods, Jimmy and Lucky. This is my question, just from the directing perspective. Where did the rest of the men in the woods go? Like, you cut
right.
and you look, and
we
you're
have all these cars and then 3 guys.
Right.
But there's this one shot where you see like at least like
it's
like
weird.
10
I don't know why. Right. And then it became 3 on 3.
And then you're like, wait, what? Did you all just die? Like what more than like 3 or 4 people heard this conversation, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that was a little weak. Yeah, that's probably the first weak thing I've seen on this.
Yeah, it's like it just reminds me of like being
maybe
a kid
it was so dark we couldn't see them.
Watching the Robinson Family Tree. It's like a silly Disney movie, but like the pirates are coming to get them, and like they just keep multiplying as they climb up this hill. And I'm like, what? Wait, where did the 200
Where'd
pirates
everyone go? Yeah, where'd everyone go? I don't know. That's a good question.
Suspension of disbelief. That's really my answer I have for you. I think we should go to commercial because
Okay.
we're kind of running out of time. We'll go to commercial and come back with a little bit of news.
I love it.
The biggest new media platform on the web just got bigger. More bandwidth, smoother streaming, lightning, fast download.
Don't get technical with me.
AFTERBUZZ TV is making the jump to hyperspace. Join the fun at your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Look at the size of that thing.
AFTERBUZZ TV.
Okay, we're back. We're still working with a little bit of the technical issue with things moving around. But I have some news. And the first one is...
AFTERBUZZ TV News.
Boardwalk Empire has been renewed for a 3rd season. Yay!
Yay. No surprise.
Yeah, I know it's not a surprise at all. But according to the president of HBO programming, Michael Lombardo, following a triumphant first season, I was eager to see what Terry Winter, Martin Scorsese, and the rest of their stellar team had in store, and they continue to surpass our highest expectations. The response from the media and our viewer has been extremely gratifying. So that's fabulous, right?
You know, we've
Everybody
been
happy
saying.
about that?
We've been saying all along. You know, I hope the power of Wahlberg and Scorsese is enough to keep the show going.
Yeah.
I see a lot of dollars
Yes,
up there
indeed.
on the screen, and that's what kind of seemed like it killed Deadwood.
Yeah,
This is seems more popular than Deadwood, thank goodness.
yeah.
But and again, those guys probably didn't have the power that the guys that did Deadwood.
Well, but also, the fact they put so much money up front on this show, I
Gotta
think
get it back.
Exactly.
Yep,
you got to
you gotta
keep it
get
running
it-
so you
you
can
gotta
get it back.
get back.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm ready to be on it.
Yeah.
So third season. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
That's yes, we're gonna see you on
The ratings have been interesting. So they were talking about that Boardwalk Empire actually doesn't have a lot of buzz, and got 2.92 million viewers on their second season premiere, and the numbers have actually been declining, and decreased by 31% from the first season debut to the season finale, and dipped further this year. But still, they greenlighted a third season. So we just got to get people to watch.
Yeah.
Because
right?
it's going to get, I mean, as we live more with these characters, it's just going to get, better and more interesting every time.
Let's find out when the finale is. I was telling you guys
Yeah.
when we were screening it, I bumped into the actor who plays Lucky
Yeah.
back in Connecticut at the J-Lo concert.
Nice.
Of all things, and we talked about the show, and I guess he's in LA a lot, and he said he'd love to come in and do this with us. I would love to do what we did, like we did with
For
Breaking
Breaking Bad.
and get us all into Lovett's Theater and get a panel.
That would be amazing.
And yeah, so if we can find out when the
Yeah, we'll
season
find that
finale-
out.
the
We'll find
season
out, 'cause
finale-
that could be
and
great.
maybe it's funny if the numbers are dropping like that. As bad as that is, they may be more willing,
Yeah.
HBO to cooperate with us.
Yeah.
More
So,
Maybe we could help them.
yes.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Also, just one other little piece of news. Paz de la Huerta, who plays Lucy Danziger, got in a fight again this week on Monday. And it was with a friend in a bar. It was...
And we're not just reporting the same news.
No, I know.
It's actually happening.
It happens like
again.
every week. It was this last Monday. She got into a bar brawl.
Do you think like maybe what happens in her mind is she's like, oh, I made page 6. Is it page 6?
Page 6, yes.
Okay, and so then like it's like positive reinforcement for her, and so like she thinks about doing it again.
We were talking about this before the show went up in the few minutes as we were in the hustle and bustle. And I was saying to you that there's different kind of actors and actresses, and Bethany, you happen to be one of the actresses that also can teach and who's responsible, and then there's another kind that's just so flaky and so out there, and part of that is what makes them great
actors,
artistically.
yes, that's right.
But this is why they make terrible partners, and they can make terrible partners, terrible parents, terrible friends. Because they're just so effing out to
Internal,
lunch,
and
they, they can't walk and chew gum. They can act, and that's it. They can perform, and that's it. And she's playing this character where she's letting it all hang out every week.
Yeah.
And she's
Maybe not so functional in real life.
Yeah, no, not so much. And Lord knows it wouldn't be the first time.
No.
That we've seen this with an actor,
Yeah.
but it seems like this with her.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. So that's it for our news, unless anybody else don't really have any news. So I think we should just go quickly to predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz.
Predictions.
Kevin, you have one.
Predictions. Well, I think Van Alden, if he's lost the wife, that was the only thing keeping him kind of human. It was a little bit of a weakness.
Yeah.
That's it. Now he's gonna have nothing to hold him back, and he's gonna be angry, so angry.
Well, and to that, we saw on the coming ups, Lucy screaming at him, "This is your baby," which would indicate to me that he's basically gone.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Yeah, I'm
you
done.
know?
Yeah, and she's like, sailor.
So I don't
You're
see.
so right. That
I don't
wife
see
was
Lucy
his
becoming
only container.
And
Yeah.
I don't see Lucy becoming a domestic goddess. I don't see that
No, it
happening
won't.
at all.
No. A little too much work too fast.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening.
I think I'm so excited to see what happens with Van Alden because he's so interesting. He's just such a freak.
He's great. I think.
Can't wait to see what
It
happens
seems
with
like,
him.
at least in the previews, it seems as though Jimmy goes under some heat too. It
Yes.
seems like it. So I don't know. I mean, it's just very generic. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Do you have
no,
anything, Bethany?
I mean, I'm just upset that there's not a Halloween episode, which I know is so like kitschy and tongue in cheek.
oh my
but
God,
like,
Bethany, what
I know.
do you think this is? The CW? Come on.
This
is HBO, for God's sake.
I know it is, but I still want a Halloween episode.
Well, I predict there will not be one.
Yeah,
But
I'm
you got
pretty
plenty
sure
of
there's not.
guts and slaughterhouses and
Bethany,
shootings and
you're
killings.
hilarious.
You are hilarious. Well, I think that's about it. I want to make sure that our viewers know. I know a lot of people download the show, but we actually do this live on Ustream, 7:15 on Sundays, right after we watch the broadcast. So you can also watch us live. And if you watch us live, you can call in. So join us for that.
What is it? Is it youtube.tv/AfterBuzz?
There you go. And iTunes, you obviously know, search AfterBuzz. Facebook is AfterBuzz TV. You can find us everywhere. Me, I'm at Tamara Jewelry on Twitter. Kevin?
At Undergaro. Nice. Yeah, Bethany.
All right, well then I guess that's it. We will see everybody next week for Boardwalk Empire.
Bye.
From producers Kevin Undergaro and Phil Svitek, engineer DJ Jesse Janity, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. If you have questions or comments, be sure to buzz us at info@AfterBuzzTV.com. And you can find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
AfterBuzz. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.